Hey, everybody. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here. I know a lot of you here, and the energy in this room is palpable. We're here because we care about each other, and we're going to have a talk about how our country can do better with some of our NDP policies under our New Deal for People. But first, I'm going to do some introductions, and before that, I want us to grab that hopefulness and that intention that we have for this country, and let's do a proper land acknowledgement together. We are standing on the land, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, and in particular, the Council of the Three Fires, the Potawatomi, the Ojibwe, the Ottawa. They lived here and gived here. They continue to live here and give here as we live here and give here. Together, we're going to have a conversation of how we can move forward as a country that takes care of each other and takes care of that land, the great mother turtle, who lets us live on her back. We're going to do that together tonight. I'm Cheryl Hardcastle. If you don't know who I am, thank you. I'm Cheryl Hardcastle. I'm running in Windsor, Tecumseh. I'm seeking re-election. I have a team with me. I call us, Jagmeet knows this already. We're TCB, taking care of business. Tracy, Cheryl, Brian. Sorry, I haven't eaten all day. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Brian Massey, but I want to tell you how privileged I am to be with Jagmeet Singh, Tracy Ramsey, and Brian Massey, because I come from working class people who never thought they were worthy of serving in government. And here we are, working people, taking care of each other and making sure that the profound knowledge that we have from living real lives matters and is actually reflected in our policy decisions. And we're capable of doing that as a country. And I thank these three here for helping me feel the confidence to do a good job in Ottawa and represent you properly. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it to Brian.
All right. Now, I know you all came out to hear me tonight. He's already got me online here. We've all been knocking on doors across this country, including Windsor West, where I was in South Windsor last night, and I ran across April. And April was concerned about student education. She was concerned about the debt load and then students exiting with that debt load and not having a job. April was 94 years of age. She said to me, I have enough. Our family has enough. But what about the next generations? What about them? And she said, for too long, Ottawa has had too many people in it for them. This time, we should be in it for all of us. Now, tonight's about you, and we're going to get to that. But first, I get to embarrass the leader for a second. As the Dean of the Caucus, I get to do that. But I seriously want to share the experiences I had because I'm pre-Jack Layton. We all miss Jack. I miss him every single day. He was my friend. He was my confidant. He was my mentor. He was down in my by-election here in 2002 pulling the vote when we only had 13 seats in the House of Commons. And I can tell you, I see a lot of Jack Layton and Jagmeet. And I tell you, it comes from the simple stuff. It comes from the handshake. It comes from the extra bounce in his step. It comes from his smile, his willingness to engage people at all economic levels, at all opportunities, and his expectations of a caucus that is to provide solutions for Canadians, not just to oppose things, but to come to the table to better the lives of men and women across our country. And thank you very much for being that leader. That's what Canada needs. That's what Canada wants. And then to paraphrase Ed Broadbent, it's time to turn Canada left side up.
Thank you so much. Wow, thank you so much. Check, check. Thank you so much for the kind words, Brian. Give it up to Brian, everybody. That's beautiful. And we got to give it up to our incredible team, Windsor Essex. They are amazing. They fight hard for you. In case you're ever wondering, they always make sure that I don't forget my hometown, where I grew up. They make sure I remember the issues that matter here. With Tracy, with Brian, with Cheryl, you've got incredible champions fighting for you. So give them some love. So friends, I want to talk to you a bit about what's at stake, a little bit about what's going on, and then I want to have a conversation with you all. But I want to just take you back to what's going on across Windsor, across Essex County, across Canada. You know, more and more we're seeing people, meeting people. I get to talk with lots of folks across Canada, and they tell me their stories, they tell me their hopes, and they tell me what worries them, what keeps them up at night. And as I speak to Canadians, more and more they're telling me they're working hard. Folks are working really hard. But they feel like as hard as they work, they're not getting ahead. And it's harder. And I remember meeting with, young people who, instead of having hope for the future and being excited for the future, they're also worried. They're feeling a lot of pressure, a lot of weight on their shoulders. And I remember when I was their age, and I don't want to say I was that long ago, because I'm kind of young still, I think. When I was young, I didn't have that same, fear of the future. I was hopeful about the future. I think about families. I've met families recently in London, parents that tell me that they've got a place to live in, but they're worried if their kids will ever be able to afford a place. People that tell me that affording a place is one thing, affording rent is expensive. People can't even find a place that they can afford to rent. And I met a lot of families that tell me about how much medication costs, and how costly it is, how expensive it is. I met a woman in London, and she was telling me that she's pregnant. And she's telling me that she's got a medication she's got to take. Her doctor prescribed the medication. And she's got coverage, but her coverage doesn't include that medication. And so she's got to pay, as a single mom, she's pregnant, and she's got to pay over $400 a month for her medication. I met a woman in Hamilton whose expenses are so high that she had to move back in with her parents. She's living with type 1 diabetes, so she was born with it. And it means she spends thousands of dollars on her medication. And she had coverage under her parents. She had coverage as a student, but now that she's no longer in school, she's got to pay thousands of dollars a month. I think about this kid that I met. And he told me that he lives with this illness, a chronic illness. And it means he's got to take medication, he's got to take injections, monitor his blood levels. And you could see that I was worried about him. He said, "Don't worry about me. I know what to do. I can take my medication, I can take care of myself." But I am worried about one thing, he told me. I'm worried about how much my medication costs my mom and dad. He's a 10-year-old kid, and he's worried about being a burden to his family. When people are worried about the future, we know that some people are going to come along. If people can't find housing, people can't find a job that makes ends meet, people are going to worry about the future. When they're worried about the future, there's some folks that are going to come along and say, you know what? You know who's to blame? You know whose fault it is? Because you can't find a house, because you can't find a job. It's that new Canadian's fault. It's that new immigrant's fault. And they're going to exploit us and divide us that way. And I want to say to you today that it's not that new Canadian's fault. It's not that immigrant's fault. It's not the refugees' fault. The reason why we're in this position today, where we can't afford health care, where we can't find a place to live, where we're worried about the future and we're not sure if our jobs are going to be able to pay the bills, the reason we're in this position today is because of decisions that conservative and liberal governments in Ottawa have made. They've made decisions that make life easier for the very wealthiest. The people at the very, very top, their lives are easier, and it's harder for everyone else. That's who we should be angry at. That's who we're going to take on. Governments in Ottawa have been working for the rich. I don't work for the rich. I work for all of you. Now, there's a choice in this election. The choice is, we've got the Liberal Party. We've got the current, that's great sound. that's really funny. That was good, though. You broke my whole thing there with that. It was really cute, though. She made a funny sound. So we've got now I can't even say it. Okay, Mr. Trudeau is the current Prime Minister, yes. He's now in re-election, and he has made certain choices. And I want to put to you that it's not by chance that we don't have Pharmacare. It's not by coincidence that life is so costly. It's because of decisions that governments have made. I'm going to give you one example. Mr. Trudeau, back in 2015, he promised to do something very simple. We set prices of medication based on other countries. So the board that sets those prices said, you know what, give us a new list of countries to compare our prices to, and we can lower the cost of medication by as much as 20%. Basically, we can drop the prices by a lot. It wouldn't cost us a cent. And Mr. Trudeau said he would do it. And I thought that was pretty encouraging. But 4 years went by and he didn't do it. And I wondered why. What was the reason? This would cost no money. Why didn't he just provide a new list of countries so that we could set better prices? What would make him cave on that basic promise? We did a little research and we found out the reason. It turned out over the past 4 years that big pharma and insurance companies have lobbied the Liberal government a whole bunch of times. Guess how many times in 4 years, roughly? 400? 300? 1,000 went a little too high. You're messing up my story. Roll that back a bit. Just roll it down a bit. No, we're close, we're close. We're close. 850 times. That we can count. This is what we can count. So after meeting with the big pharma lobbyists, after meeting with the insurance lobbyists, Mr. Trudeau caved on that commitment to drop the cost of medication. And now he's making the promise again. 4 years later, as if we forgot, he's saying, oh yeah, I'm going to actually bring down the cost of medication. We know when push comes to shove, Mr. Trudeau chooses to help those at the top, and it hurts everyone else. And we are going to change that, my friends. And so, I'll put it to you this way. We believe if you need medication in this country, if you or your loved ones needs life-saving medication or medical devices, you should go and use your health card, not your credit card. So we can expand Pharmacare. We can expand our healthcare system to include Pharmacare, but only if we have the courage to take on the powerful lobbyists at the very top. We can take on the big telecom companies who are charging us the highest cell phone and internet prices in the world. We can take them on, and we're going to. Because we have the courage to take on those lobbyists, we have the courage to take on those big corporations. You know, we can make sure young people have a brighter future. You know that the story about April really touched me that Brian just mentioned. You know, when someone in their 90s was thinking about young people and their future. You know, young people, here's another example of Mr. Trudeau's choices. Over the past 4 years, students that have debt have been charged not just prime, but prime plus 3%. That's more than a bank would charge. So Mr. Trudeau charged prime plus 3% on student debt. That means over 4 years, he collected $3 billion out of the pockets of students that are struggling. But, no, it's good, it's good. It's totally, you're right, yes. Yes, you're right. You're right. But just to give you the choices, last year alone, the Liberal government, Mr. Trudeau, waived $6 billion in corporate loans. I just wanted to take that in for a second. On one hand, he stole from or picked the pockets of students to the tune of $3 billion. And on the other side, he gave $6 billion away to corporations. $6 billion in corporate loans waived, $3 billion to students that were profited off of. That's the choices that we're up against. And we know, so liberals are not the way, Mr. Trudeau's not the way. Do I need to say it in this room? Are the conservatives the way? Pretty sure you'd agree with me on that. But let's take it really seriously, though. There's gonna be something they're gonna say, though. They're gonna say this to people, and I need you to push back. They're gonna say to people, we're gonna save you a couple dollars, right? They're gonna cut your taxes. That's what they're gonna say. They're gonna say that. They're gonna cut your taxes. But let's be honest. Every single time conservatives have cut taxes, has it benefited working class people? No. The money has gone to the wealthiest. They cut taxes, sure, for the wealthiest, but what else do they cut? All the services that you and your family depend on. And we don't need to look very far for an example. Where do we look? Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford. Let's look to Toronto. Mr. Ford came into power on an agenda of being for the people. He wasn't for the people, he was for the powerful corporations. And what he did is bring in cuts that hurt the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, kids with autism, people who need to go to the hospital, kids going to school, classroom sizes. That's not the solution, my friends. That's going to make things worse. So I tell you that there is a brighter way. There is a brighter future possible. We don't have to choose between the red door or the blue door. We can choose a beautiful, shiny orange door, my friends. And I want you to know that when we say what we're going to do, we're going to get it done. Because we're not in it for the powerful. We're not in the rich. We're in it for the rich. We're in it for you. We're fighting for you. We're going to make people's lives better because we believe when we work together, when we take care of each other, that's how we build a brighter future. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tracy Ramsey, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jagmeet, for that and for hope. Really, you know, I think the struggles that people are facing, and I'm hearing it at the doors too, every day. This morning we heard from Teresa, a woman who can't afford her medication. She had to go back and live with her parents because she's working part-time and can't afford her medication. I want to thank you for bringing our vision here to Windsor, Essex, and sharing it with all of our friends in this room. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we want to hear.
Oh, of course,
now
never.
we want to hear from all of you. So
Yes.
who has a question? We've got a couple folks in the room. They're going to walk around with mics. Let's take some questions from all of you. Okay? You want to
All right.
start? Hello.
Hello? Can,
Is it on?
yeah, it's working now? Yeah.
Here we go.
So, Mr. Singh, thank you so much for coming down to Windsor. I
My
appreciate
pleasure,
your
Jan.
efforts. I'm a local realtor. I work every day with Canadian families, finding them their dream home. So my question is regarding housing. Today's the housing prices are jacking up like crazy. People cannot afford houses anymore. The houses that are on the market are run down, which are affordable. So how can the NDP make houses more affordable for Canadians, especially for young Canadians that are going into the first-time home buyer? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Big question. Thank you very much. So we want to hear from all of you. It's going to be tough to get around, but make sure you let people know that you want to ask a question. So be ready. We've got these mics around here, and Tracy's going to help make sure we get you. So the question's on housing. Thank you, brother, for asking the question. It is probably one of the biggest concerns I hear across the country. No matter where I go, people can't afford housing. And those who have housing are worried about whether or not their kids can ever afford housing. So it is a massive concern. We know that it's complex, it's a complicated problem, but there's a couple of things that we can do right now. So one of the reasons why housing prices are going up so fast is because of speculation. We're seeing people putting money into Canada because they see our housing market kind of like a stock market. They're putting money into housing and thinking that's going to go up, so they're just driving up the cost of housing. So what's happened in BC, the government said, you know what? people who are citizens, people who are permanent residents, of course we want them to be able to buy a home. But if someone internationally is trying to invest in the housing market like a stock market, we don't want that to happen. That's hurting Canadians. That's hurting families here. So they put in a foreign buyer's tax. What we want to do is bring that tax nationally, across the country, put that in place here. We also know a lot of young people want to live in the communities they grew up in, and they can't afford to, and they often have to move. They have to leave the communities that they've got friends and family and connection. I've met those kids, I've met those families, and it's stressful when they can't live where they want to live. So the other thing that we know that's driving up the cost of housing is money laundering. Money laundering is directly driving up the cost of housing. In BC, they found out it's at least 5%, but some of the experts say it's even more across the rest of Canada. So there's a department at the federal level that's supposed to deal with money laundering. But no one is actually tackling the issue. There's actually no one working on any cases. So I asked the question to Mr. Trudeau, why is it that we've got a department for money laundering, but no one's doing the work? And I guess you can guess his answer. He didn't answer. But that's what we're going to change. We're going to clamp down on money laundering. It's driving up the cost of housing, and it's making it harder for people to afford. So that's some of the root causes. We also want to make sure that people can find a home to live in right now. And we know in countries where housing is affordable, there's an affordable option for rent. And that means investing in affordable housing. So what we plan to do is build 500,000 new affordable homes across this country to give people a chance to find a place to live. So your little one's going to grow up and know that he can find a place to live as well.
All right, we'll go to our next question. Mo?
Yes. My question is about the environment. Here in Windsor, we don't have that many natural spaces. We were wondering, we need to protect places like Ojibwe and Ojibwe shores. It's good for the environment, but it's also good to protect the endangered species. And we can do that by creating a national urban place for them. We want to know what you plan to do for here in Windsor to protect our environment.
Thank you very much for the question. Great question. Thank you very much. You touched on something that is something that is hitting young people a lot, right? When we speak to young people, they're probably one of their biggest concerns. Anyone who's got any young person in their life, whether you've got nieces or nephews, or if you've got grandchildren or grandkids, if you've got daughters or sons, they're all talking about a fear for the future. And I remember meeting with a young person and just seeing that fear in their eyes. They said they're afraid for what's going to happen. They're afraid of the planet and what they're going to grow up into. I remember meeting a mom in BC who told me her biggest worry was climate crisis, and it was because she was afraid in the upcoming summer, because of the forest fires in BC, on some days you can't even breathe the air. Doctors recommend you stay indoors on some days. So she was worried whether or not her baby was be able to breathe the air on some days. There's massive flooding. I know flooding is hitting here in Windsor as well. We know flooding has devastated people in Ottawa. Homes been washed away. When someone loses their home because of severe weather, and these are severe weather changes that never happened in the past, it's heartbreaking to hear those stories. So we've got to commit to a couple of things. One, protecting green spaces, protecting natural spaces like Ojibwe shores. That's something we have to commit to doing, protecting those natural spaces. We also have to commit to doing something bold. And right now, Mr. Trudeau, just like the Conservatives before, continue to subsidize the fossil fuel sector. On the first day of a new Democratic government, we would end those fossil fuel subsidies. And we would take that money and reinvest it into clean energy, into renewable energy, into building a brighter future. We can do it. There's so many options. We have to have the courage to take on the big polluters, the courage to take on those powerful lobbyists, and we have the courage to do it.
Okay, we're going to go to our next question, but we have to give a shout out to our own Brian Massey, who's been calling for that national urban park in the West End.
That's right.
Brian's done incredible work. All right, Kaylee, you've got someone for us?
I'm an auto worker. I work at NEMAC. During our last contract negotiations, we made concessions so that the company would stay in Windsor. Now the company's tried to violate our contract and move our jobs to Mexico. They use taxpayer dollars from the federal government for new product development, and that's the product that they're trying to move to Mexico. What are you going to be able to do in the future that would protect and keep us in our jobs so that the companies cannot break contract and use taxpayer-funded money to move out of the country.
Thank you for the question. Thank you very much. Good question. What you've described is far too common. It's happening again and again. We see federal dollars, provincial dollars going into a company. They take billions of dollars, millions of dollars. They take that money, put it in their pocket, close down the factory, and then move shop. And that happens far too often. And one of the reasons why it happens is because when conservative and liberal governments have given money to companies, they've given it no strings attached. No requirements, no restrictions, no conditions. And what that means is they're effectively robbing us of our future. Taking public dollars, turning it into profits, but not guaranteeing any jobs in communities. That is wrong. That is wrong. And a new democratic government would never let that happen. Never. What we would do is make sure that any investment we make comes with ironclad conditions, requirements to keep jobs in our communities. We also want to make sure we have a manufacturing strategy that keeps jobs in Canada. One example is the Trudeau government put in place a $5,000 incentive to buy electric vehicles. Now, I support electric vehicles, but I don't support an incentive that excluded the only electric car made in Canada. How does that make any sense? It was a Chrysler Pacifica, and because of the hard work of folks like Brian, Cheryl, and Tracy, we fought back and said, listen, we're making a car here in Canada. That car should be included in the incentive, and we got it included. But we want to go further. That was a great work of Unifor and a lot of labor activists and lots of community workers that made this possible. But we want to go further. What we're going to do is we're going to take that $5,000 exemption or incentive, and we're going to move it up to $15,000. But the $15,000 will only apply if the car is made in Canada. That's what we're going to do.
Hey, Mo.
Hi.
Hey, Noah.
Hi, my name's Noah Tepperman. Welcome home.
Hey.
So I'm an owner of Tepperman's. It's a family retail business based here in Windsor. Yeah. At this point, we've got over 500 employees across 6 locations in southwestern Ontario. And we're proud to be able to offer our employees comprehensive health benefits that get expensive every year, every single year. We're proud to be able to do that because we know that our business is only as healthy as our team and as our customers. But I'd like to hear from you what your Pharmacare plan will do to help businesses like ours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Noah. Thank you for what you do. See, here's the thing. What you touched on is a very powerful argument in terms of how do we build a successful economy that works for everyone. So I put it to you, and I'm sure, Noah, you agree with this, but I put it to you, an economy that works for everyone, where everyone can share in the prosperity, is an economy that is better for everyone, businesses and workers alike. So what we're proposing is this. For companies that are already spending money on health benefits, which is a great thing that they're doing, what we're proposing is our plan to include universal Pharmacare for all is not only going to save families money and ensure that they get the medication they need, but it's also going to save businesses. For each employee, our plan would save $600 per employee. It would mean that we don't have to rely on a private system to cover people's health care. We would roll that into our public universal system so that no one is excluded. We help people out. It helps out our healthcare system. We know stories of people who skip their medication because they can't afford it. They become more and more unhealthy, and they end up in the hospital. And then it costs thousands of dollars to treat them. And it's a shame, absolutely, it's a shame because they could have been prevented. Their health could have been maintained if they could have afforded medication. This is good for people, this is good for businesses, this is good for our country, and that's why we are going to get it in. Yes. Noah says, I'd pay taxes for that. That's good, man. I know you do.
Kaylee, do you have someone?
Welcome home.
Hey, thank you, brother.
My name is Ron Jones. I'm a retired firefighter, a
Thank you, Ron.
veteran of 35 years.
Hey, hey.
Like many others, I am concerned about a pension.
Yeah.
Pensions that have been cut or eliminated by people like Sears,
Yeah,
General Chemical,
yeah,
and others.
that's right.
We've paid into pension plans throughout our working career. I'm concerned about others who are coming along who are on pension. What are your plans for protection of those people?
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Ron. And thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Ron brings up a really important point. There's a lot of Canadians that are relying on deferred wages from pensions. They're relying on that as a way to retire with dignity. And I think we all agree, if someone spends their whole life working and contributing, at the least, they should be able to retire with dignity. We expect that they should be able to do that. Of course we do. Now, what happens in our country is that there's two things going on. One is we've got governments in Ottawa. They want to move away from good pensions, pensions that actually can give someone a living wage and a wage where they can actually retire with dignity, and replace that with something that plays with the stock market and creates unpredictability and makes it so that they don't have a secure future. That's a law that was being brought in by the Liberal government, in fact. They wanted to switch from good pensions, solid pensions, reliable pensions, and move to volatile, unpredictable stock market options. And so we pushed back against that, so that was wrong. That's one we're going to fight back, because we believe in defined benefit pensions, those that protect people and their benefits. But we want to go a bit further. We also know that when companies go bankrupt, companies like Sears, when they go bankrupt, what happens is, do you think that the creditors and the financiers, are they worried about getting paid back? No. They're not worried, because they're given a priority. But the good, hardworking people that built up that company are given no priority. And we could fix that with one simple law. One of our members of parliament, Scott Duval, put forward a law and said, you know what? Instead of making workers the lowest priority when a company goes bankrupt, like what happened in Sears, and pensioners lost 30% of their pensions, which means going from living in a dignified manner or living in poverty. That's what that means. 30% loss means being able to make ends meet or living in poverty. That happened because the laws meant that the workers were the lowest priority. Well, we believe if a company goes bankrupt, workers should be the highest priority. They should be protected and defended at all costs. So we would end pension theft and ensure workers are protected.
Okay, we have another question.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening.
My name's Carrie. I have
Hi,
an
Carrie.
automotive sector question for you as well. I work for a local automotive equipment manufacturing company. I'm a sales representative for them. We sell our equipment locally as well as in several other countries, which is becoming increasingly challenging. What do you, Mr. Singh, propose to do to protect the jobs we have here in Windsor, ensure that this sector continues to grow and remain competitive in the market?
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you. Windsor is an automotive town, and we're proud of that. We're proud of the jobs that have built up a life for so many people. And you're right to be worried about the future, because it's a bit uncertain right now. There's a couple things we can do, though. One is, with trade deals that we've seen so far being signed, they create a condition where workers cannot compete. Because we have some of the best workers in the world, particularly here in Windsor, Essex. We've got some of the best workers in the world. Yes, they are. But here's the thing, these amazing workers can't compete with their jurisdiction where they don't have the same workers' rights, where they don't have the same environmental regulations. Our workers can't compete with that. And that's what's happening with trade deals. Trade deals that are being signed by Liberal and conservative governments certainly help out powerful corporations. They continue to make profits, but they don't ensure that jobs remain in our country. So we need to negotiate not just free trade, we need to negotiate fair trade, agreements that protect jobs in our country, that create level playing fields for workers in our country. That's what we need to do.
Kaylee, do you have
We
a
also-
question?
One last thing. We also need to make sure when it comes to the way we look at our country as a manufacturing nation, we've got to take it very seriously. And that's why we're calling for a national strategy on manufacturing, a national strategy on automotive. We need to make sure we want to bring back the $300 million automotive innovation fund to make sure we have a robust and vibrant automotive sector in Canada.
Hi, Jagmeet. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, Jada.
My name is Jada Malott, and something that I've always said my entire life, it's my coined phrase, I've probably said it a million times, is just because I'm not old enough to vote, it definitely doesn't mean that I'm not affected by bad decisions made by politicians.
Wow. Thank you.
And I think it's true now more than ever, especially with all of the cuts happening to education. So all of these students are saying the exact same thing as me. So my question for you is, would you support our lower voting age?
Okay. Good question. Good question. Good question. Great question. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I would support Jada being the next leader of the New Democratic Party. Maybe we'll start her off as an MP in the future. But Jada brings up a good point. Young people are impacted by the decisions that are being made. And we know that young people aren't often voting enough. And I think one of the reasons is that, young people come to the age to vote when they're 18, and sometimes they might be away for school, they might be going to college, they might not be in their home communities, they haven't voted before, and they're not sure how to do it for the first time. I think if we lower the voting age to 16, it would allow young people to vote in high school. It could become a part of the curriculum. It would become a part of the culture. We get young people voting. They get used to voting. They could talk about it in school, make decisions, vote, and then continue voting and see more young people voting. This would be amazing. So Jada, the answer is yes, absolutely. I believe in it. Yes.
Mo, do we have another question?
Okay, awesome. I don't like standing. I'm a social worker in the community, and I work with marginalized families and clients, and I'm wondering about dental care. A lot of our families don't have coverage, and so they go without. So I'm wondering what you're planning on doing to ensure that people do get the dental care before they end up in the ER, in the emergency room.
Thank you so much for your question. What was your name again? Tina? Thank you, Tina, for the question. That was a great question. Thank you very much. So this is something that kind of always confused me. If you think about it, if you go into the hospital and you've got, your knee has been destroyed, you can go in and get full reconstructive surgery on your knee. I had to get that done once, and I'm really thankful for our healthcare system for putting my knee back together. We can go in and get open heart surgery. You can get your whole body taken care of, but for some reason, our healthcare system completely considers our teeth not a part of our health. It's a bit of an arbitrary thing when you think about it. Like, you can get all this complicated procedures, you can get them done, but for some reason, if you need dental care, basic dental hygiene is not covered at all. It really makes no sense, because you could ask any healthcare provider, and you meet people on a daily basis, Tina, who don't have dental health care, and it impacts their overall health. So because they can't get the treatment for their dental health, it means their overall health is impacted. They end up in the hospital anyways. And we're covering their healthcare visit to the hospital, but not the dental care that would prevent them from going in the hospital. It really makes no sense. And we've seen again and again, Liberal governments never moved on this. They don't seem to care. And I think of one of the reasons why. If you're ever watching TV late at night, I don't get to do that much anymore, but if you're ever watching TV and you turn on the channels, you'll see the show, commercial come on. Who's got coverage? Are you covered? And it's insurance companies selling people coverage because they're preying on the fact that people don't have the coverage they need. So Mr. Trudeau's not going to bring this in because he's not going to stand up to the insurance industry. But I believe if you need dental care, you should get it. So this is what we're proposing. We launched a plan just a couple of days ago in Sudbury. Our plan is this. For everyone in our country who makes less than $70,000 and that does not have any coverage, we will cover them. We will cover them. And this is going to be the question, oh, how are you going to pay for it, Mr. Singh? How are you going to pay for this plan? I'm going to give you a quick example. The plan that we're proposing is going to be government, publicly owned insurance to cover dental care. And then what we can do with this plan is we can get it in action right away. This means we can form government on October 21st and make sure that this is in place so that people can start using it by the next year. We can get this done right away. We can immediately get this done. And this is how much it's going to cost. I want to just give you an example. We had the Parliamentary Budget Office cost this out to cover every single Canadian who doesn't have coverage, who makes less than $70,000. That's 4.3 million Canadians. The cost of this plan would be $856 million. Now, to give you a contrast, last year, the Liberal government spent $14 billion on the richest corporations so they could buy corporate jets and limos. They spent $4.5 billion on a pipeline, and they waived $6 billion in corporate loans. That's their decisions. That's well over $20 billion of cost that they spent on the wealthiest people. We're proposing a plan that costs way less that would cover 4.3 million Canadians with dental care coverage. We call it Dentacare, a throwback to Tommy Douglas's vision. This will be our next step towards universal dental care for everyone. This is a bold step forward. I'm proud of it. I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's going to make a big difference in people's lives.
Okay, we've got two more questions. Mo, you've got someone over here. Sir?
Hi, my name's Terrence Waterworth, and I'd like to congratulate Singh and Brian Massey. This question is directed to Brian Massey regarding, I've seen you in Ottawa talking about the price of our telephones. I was wondering how you proceeded with it, with progress, what state we're at with the phone prices going down. So.
I'll take it over, even though Brian is the expert in this field. I'll give him a shout out because Brian's the one who's helped me out a lot with this idea. So this is a Brian idea. A lot of work that Brian's put into this. But you bring up your point, your question, sir, your name is Terrence?
Yeah, Terrence Waterworth, yeah.
Terrence Waterworth, thanks for the question. Really appreciate it.
Getting the prices down.
How to bring the prices down. I'm going to talk about that. So, folks, are you ever frustrated with the cost of your telephone bills? Are you frustrated with your cell phone bills? It is probably one of the most frustrating bills that I pay. Do you ever get that message after you go over your data and they say, you know, your bill is like a $70 plan, and they say for 1 gig more, $40 is all you need. And I look at my phone saying, $40 for 1 gig? My whole plan costs $70 or $80. Half my plan for 1 gig of data? We're getting ripped off. You ever feel like you're being ripped off? Well, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to you, but you are getting ripped off. We're actually paying the highest prices in the world for cell phone and internet services. Let me just say that again. Literally, the highest prices in the world. We are amongst the highest. Australia, and some people are going to say, well, Canada's a big country. It's really spread wide. So is Australia. Very, very large country, geographically spread out, large urban centers, and then very sparse populations. They pay half of what we pay. We looked at the OECD countries similar to us, and we pay way more than most of those countries, all those countries, in fact. And so what we're saying to Canadians is, well, why is it this the way? Why is it the case that we're paying the highest for our cell phone bills? Terrence, the reason is, let me tell you why. Guess how many times the telecom lobbyists have lobbied Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal government? Great guess. That was for the last one, though. That was for Pharmacare and insurance companies. That was a good one, though. That was just funny. I like that one. Oh, actually, yeah. That's good. Over 500 times, about 550 times. So that was 550 times the big telecom companies have lobbied this government, and that continues to make sure that we are paying the highest in the world. We're going to take them on. They're not going to like this, but we're going to take them on with two big steps. One, we're going to put in a price cap. We're going to put in a price cap in terms of how much they can charge. The price cap will be the average price that other countries like us charge. We're going to put in a price cap. They cannot charge us more than that. That's one. That's one. And people are going to say, oh, how are you going to do that? You can't do that. The United States did it. The United States put in a price cap, and it brought down the cost of cell phone bills. Australia also put in a price cap. It's been done in other jurisdictions. We can do it here. The second thing we're going to do is this. Every other jurisdiction that's similar to us has true unlimited data plans. There's a certain price that you pay, and you get a true unlimited data plan. Not a, you get 10 gigs of data, and then after that, it gets super slow. That's what they're offering us. We're not going to have that. So we're going to put in place a requirement to have affordable, unlimited data plans in our country. That's a bold step to make sure our cell phones are more affordable.
Question over here.
Welcome home, Mr. Singh.
Thank you very much.
My question is going to be a little different.
Sure.
And, I'm a Canadian citizen of Indian origin. And I would like to bring to your attention that disinformed people representing Windsor, Essex, participated in the rally against human rights violation in Kashmir, India. This was on the 8th of September. We were very disappointed with the 3 NDP representatives supporting this rally and joined them without doing any research on the Kashmir situation in India. The rally was politically motivated with the sole purpose of defaming India. The narratives sent out by Tracy Ramsey were in very poor taste. The Indian community was very disappointed with this biased support, and it was extremely damaging to the relation your party has developed with the Indian committee. I would like to ask these 3 NDP representatives if they still endorse their support with their narratives. Number 2, how would you like to regain the support with the Indian community? I have a lot of questions.
Sure. Well, I can take it from there. That's good. That gives us an idea.
Number 3,
yeah.
What would you like to do to correct the situation?
Sure.
Is there an apology due for this?
I'll take the question. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll take the question. I'll take the question. It'll be okay. That's okay. I can explain. That's okay. I can explain. That's okay. That's okay. I'll answer the question. Thank you very much. So I believe, I love the people from South Asia. They're beautiful, wonderful people. And we all have so much in common. My mom always taught me that we're all connected, that no matter where we're from, no matter what language we speak, no matter what our religion, we have so much more in common that connects us. We're bound together by the fact that we're in the same space together, that we're living together in the same time. We're sharing this time together. We're so deeply connected, and we've got to take care of one another. That's something my mom always taught me, and I really believe in that. And everywhere in the world this applies, whether we're talking about South Asia, we're talking about any other continent, we're talking about our brothers and sisters to the south of us. We're all connected. We're all in this together, and we've got to care for each other. And so in the issue with Kashmir, what happened is the government brought in a blackout for media. They brought in a blackout for cell phone and telephone communications. They brought in massive blockouts. When you block communication and you block the ability to communicate with one another, and you block media from going in, clearly not something good is going on. Clearly there's a serious problem. That is all the indicators of horrible human rights violations. So I stand with my MPs in saying that what's happened in Kashmir, particularly given the blockout of media, the blocking of cell phone communications, is clearly evidence of some sort of very serious human rights violations. And I stand with the brothers and sisters of Kashmir. Thank you very much. And I'll just wrap up. I know this is our last question, but I know someone wants to talk about seniors. Yeah, that's okay. And I just want to touch on, we got to wrap it up, yeah.
We're going to wrap it up. We're on a tight schedule. Thank you
talk.
so much for all the excellent questions from the audience today. I want to thank our leader, Jagmeet, for taking the questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Tyler.
Tyler.
I
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much. Hey, buddy. How are you? So cute. Hey, thank you so much.
was afraid of the future.
Okay, there's going to be a scrum over here in the back of the room. Jagmeet,
yes,
we're going to do a scrum over
I
here.
totally forgot about that. Sorry, folks, I totally forgot.
It's okay.
Grab a
I'll
seat
get
for
you
a
back
second.
on track.
Grab a seat for a second, friends. Yeah.
Okay, if everyone
Friends-
could just take a seat
Friends,
for a
it's all good.
moment.
Everybody grab a seat for one quick sec. We'll
If
have a chat
everyone
afterwards.
can take a seat for just 1 minute. The media just has some questions for Jagmeet.
What I'm going to do is we're going to have a chance to chat and hang out. But before that, I totally forgot. Thank you, Tracy, for getting me back on track. We've got our great friends from the media here. I got too excited. I'm in my hometown. People were asking me, they kept on saying, welcome home. It's because I lived in Windsor for about 18 years. It's a place that I consider home, and I loved it. I love it. Beautiful place. And, yeah. And I'm sure we'll sort out what's going on in a sec. But please go ahead with your questions. I think you look like Hannah.
That's right. My name is Hannah Thibodeau. I'm with CBC National News. Thank you, Mr. Singh, for taking our questions. Oh.
People love Hannah Thibodeau. she's embarrassed. Give her some Windsor love. Give her some Windsor love. When you come to Windsor, you're going to get the love.
Okay, now you've embarrassed me. Okay, thank you for taking our questions. So we're in day 10, 11 today and tomorrow. How do you feel from that first day we got on that bus as opposed to now? What have you seen that's changed?
You know what? I've been really honored to be on this journey. It's a huge honor. I carry the weight of a lot of people who don't feel like they had someone representing them, a lot of people who feel like governments in Ottawa haven't worked for them, and I feel the weight of that. And I know that a lot of people are putting their trust in me to be their voice and to stand up for them and to fight for them. And I'm really honored to be able to carry that mantle. And I hope that people see in our campaign themselves. They see their voices reflected. They see their concerns reflected, because we're in this for people. And I hope that you see over the past period of time, 11 days, that we've fought hard to show that there is a better way forward. If we make the right choices today, we can get better results. Results will put people first. And I'm proud of that. They asked me to do that same answer in French. I'm going to try it in French now. Non, vraiment, je me sens une grande pression parce que je sais qu'il y a plusieurs personnes qui croient en moi d'être leur voix, de proposer des idées pour régler les problèmes qu'ils font face. Et je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de pression à cause de ça. Beaucoup de gens se sentent qu'il n'y avait pas un gouvernement à Ottawa qui se bat pour eux. Et pour moi, c'était vraiment un grand honneur d'avoir une campagne pour les dernières 11 journées qu'on a vraiment avancé les enjeux pour aider du monde, pour proposer des idées, des solutions concrètes avec lesquelles on peut régler les problèmes qui font face les gens. Et je suis tellement fier de mon équipe et je suis tellement fier des gens autour de moi parce qu'on est là pour vous, on se bat pour vous.
I know we're still early in, even though it feels like a bit longer, but has there been, yeah, it has, has there been any moment that feels like a turning point for you?
Well, day one, when we launched the campaign, I launched the campaign in London. And for me, London is never going to compete. Windsor's always my home. No competition. London is where I went to school. And in London is where I had some of my amazing memories as a university student and some of my most difficult moments. It's when I learned that my dad was no longer able to work because of his alcoholism and where he fell into the most difficult position of his life. And it was in that time that a lot of people around me helped me out. I'm not here today as a self-made person. I absolutely don't believe anyone is, but I'm not a self-made person. I'm only here today because people helped me out, because friends and family lifted me up, because there were social services that we invested in, because university education was affordable, because we made choices to help each other out. And when I launched in London, I really wanted to focus in on that Canadians really believe in taking care of one another. And if we take care of one another, we can build an even beautiful country, an even more beautiful country. And that to me was the moment where we started to share the future and how the future can be brighter if we work together and take care of one another. That was a beautiful day for me, and I think a beautiful day for our team, and I hope a beautiful day for Canada.
Hi, it's Annie with CTV National News. We spoke to a woman yesterday who came out to a rally because she was impressed by your initial response on Wednesday evening after the photos emerged. Tonight we see an individual in the back that has a sign that say, "I have value, I have worth." And it also appears the rallies seem to be getting a little bit larger in the last couple days. I wonder if you feel a different energy since the images initially came out, and over the last few days as you've brought forward this message of unity than what you had at the beginning of the campaign.
Well, I mean, I didn't even realize that sign. That is so beautiful. I just want to read that out, and I want everyone to know this. People who saw the image, probably those images probably started to doubt whether they had value, and many people for very different reasons who felt that they were made fun of or they felt like they were belittled. Many people have experienced that, and that sign is what we're all about. I want everyone to know that you have value, that you have worth, that you are loved, and I guess I am saying, yes, that is true.
Bonjour, Monsieur Singh, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. J'aimerais savoir comment vous vous sentez. Vous avez parlé des gens que vous avez rencontrés, mais ça fait 10 jours que vous parcourez la province au Québec, en Ontario, en autobus. C'est pas facile. Vous n'avez pas beaucoup de moyens, mais vous avez l'air d'avoir réussi à capturer quelque chose, peut-être. Mais ça, j'aimerais savoir comment vous vous sentiez la première journée et comment vous vous sentez maintenant et quelle est la différence.
Pour moi, si vous me permettez de parler encore de ma mère, elle m'a enseigné quelque chose qui me motive tout le temps. C'est un esprit d'optimisme courageux. Et c'est vraiment cet esprit avec lequel je travaille. Et c'est de trouver d'optimisme malgré les défis, malgré des problèmes, parce qu'on a beaucoup d'énergie ensemble, on peut faire beaucoup de choses ensemble. Donc, j'ai toujours travaillé avec cette énergie. Ça me motive, ça me donne vraiment de courage optimiste tout le temps. Donc, je suis tellement content de voir des gens qui regardent notre campagne et pensent que, oui, ils me représentent. Ils représentent ce que j'ai fait face. Ils représentent mes défis. Ils représentent les problèmes dans ma vie et aussi des solutions pour régler ces problèmes. Et je suis fier de ça. J'étais fier à journée numéro 1 et je continue d'être fier parce qu'on est là pour vraiment changer la façon de faire le travail, de faire la politique dans une meilleure façon pour les gens, pas pour les plus riches, mais pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde.
Comment résumez-vous les 10 premiers jours de campagne?
Si je suis honnête, j'ai eu beaucoup de fun. J'aimais beaucoup faire la campagne parce que ça me donne l'occasion de connecter avec les gens. Vous me donnez de l'énergie. You give me energy. You give me life. Meeting with people, this is what I'm in it for. This is why New Democrats, we're here for you. And every time I get a chance to be with people, to hear your stories, to hear your hopes and your dreams, it gives me the energy to keep on fighting. And it gives all of us the energy to keep on fighting. And so I want to thank you for giving me that energy because it's been incredibly fun. Donc pour moi, les gens autour de moi ici, ils me donnent l'énergie. J'ai beaucoup de fun. Je vais continuer de proposer des problèmes sérieux, de s'attaquer les grands problèmes. Mais je pense qu'il faut s'amuser en faisant le travail. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on fait.
You talked about the people in the crowds giving you energy. Do you feel energized? Do you feel like your message is starting to resonate with people more over the last few days than it has? And what's the difference in your energy? What do you think that's attributed to, and the crowd's energy as well?
Yes. To be direct, yes, I do feel like there's a movement that's building. I feel the excitement growing. I feel people are seeing themselves. Yes. Whew, thank you. I was hoping for that. That wouldn't have worked if you didn't applaud. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous when I said yes and then no one said anything. I was like, that did not work. No, but to be honest with you, I really do believe that people are are seeing themselves reflected in this campaign. And that to me is the most important thing. It should be fun when you're working hard and fighting for something that matters. There's a lot of serious issues and we take them very seriously. And I want people to know there's no other way to put it. We're in it for you. We're fighting for you. I want you to feel that whatever you're worried about, any of the concerns that you're feeling, any of the fears that you're faced with, we want to make it better. And we can make it better when we work together. That's what it is. Thank you, thank you.
My name's Adele Loisel. I'm with Blackburn News here in Windsor. And earlier today, you were actually at our station, that huge mural on Wyandotte Street East.
Oh, wow.
That's our building, actually.
Oh, cool.
Now, we understand that you met with some students to talk with them. I guess, what did they tell you?
So we talked about, the past couple of days, and we talked about what it meant for young people. And for me, that's something that's been kind of missing in the conversation. There's been a lot of focus on, should we excuse Mr. Trudeau? Should he be forgiven? Is he a racist? Is he not? And you know what? It's not about him. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is, what is the impact on people? What are people feeling today? How are they feeling when they see those images? And what does that mean about the upcoming decisions that people have to make? And so we talked a lot about what people say is not just a singular event, but a pattern of behavior. And people talked about how that has influenced decisions. One of the young women I spoke to said, when we talk about public transit and the fact that public transit's not being invested in, it's because everyday people need it, and governments in Ottawa don't seem to care about everyday people. They care about those at the very top, the very powerful, the very well-connected. And if you're not powerful and well-connected, then you don't matter. And that's what people feel like. They feel like if they're not powerful, if they're not well-connected, if they're not on the top, then they don't matter. And that hurts. And it has an impact on policies. It has a real impact on decisions that are made. So when we don't invest in things like universal Pharmacare, that hurts people. It benefits the people at the very top. It benefits big pharma. It benefits insurance companies, but it hurts people. And so the young people try to bring it down to the fact that they're seeing if a prime minister is going to, in private, make fun of people who are going through difficult times, there's really no surprise that the policies also hurt people. The policies also continue to make it harder for people to get by. And that's why it's so important for us to have a conversation about how we turn that around.
Just to follow up, sorry. Just to follow up, and I apologize, this is kind of an open-ended question, but I think that after the last couple of days and some of the rhetoric we've seen on the campaign trail so far, the one question that comes to my mind over and over again is, how do we move beyond racism? Is it more progressive policy? Is it addressing income inequality? Is it more education? What is it?
You know what? It's all those things. It's every single one of the things you talked about. When people are faced with challenges, the way to solve it is to help them through those challenges. So you touched on a lot of them. By investing in healthcare, by making sure we expand universal Pharmacare so that everyone has coverage, it's going to help everybody. When we make investments into tackling the housing crisis and make it easier for people to have housing, that's going to make it easier for everybody. When we look at a justice system that disproportionately targets some people, if we change it and make it fair, it's going to help everybody. So all these policy points are going to directly make things better. So for me, it's not about Mr. Trudeau saying if he's sorry. It's about us saying as a country, do we want to make things better? And if we do, let's make the right choices. Let's take care of people. Let's take care of each other. Let's lift each other up.
Rose Saint-Pierre, Radio-Canada à Windsor. Ça a été une année très difficile pour les travailleurs de l'industrie automobile ici, à la fois chez Chrysler et chez NIMAC. Et on dirait que les choses ne s'arrangent pas pour les travailleurs de l'industrie automobile. Il y a des électeurs qui ont fait confiance longtemps au NPD, mais là qui ont peut-être envie de voter pour un parti qui pourrait prendre le pouvoir parce qu'on pense que ça pourrait peut-être sauver leur emploi. Qu'est-ce que vous leur répondez?
Je dis que c'est clair, les priorités des gouvernements libéraux et des gouvernements conservateurs. Ils travaillent pour les plus riches, pas pour les gens, pas pour les travailleurs et travailleuses. Donc, on peut voir leur bilan. chaque décision qu'ils prennent, ils prennent des décisions qui ne donnent pas des avantages aux travailleurs et travailleuses. Ils coupent les impôts pour les grandes compagnies et ils coupent les services pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde. On a un gouvernement libéral qui a proposé un incentive pour acheter des voitures électriques. Ils ont complètement manqué la seule voiture électrique qui est fabriquée au Canada, la Chrysler Pacifica. Donc, on sait que ça va être la même chose avec les libéraux, avec les conservateurs. Ils ne s'inquiètent pas des travailleurs et travailleuses. Ils ont mis en place, des programmes de maintenant, des accords de maintenant qui ont réduire les emplois ici à Windsor. C'était leur décision. C'était leurs accords. On va changer ça. Avec un néo-démocrate, vous avez quelqu'un qui est de votre bord, qui va se battre pour vous. Et c'est ce que j'exige les gens. Si on veut quelqu'un qui veut savoir les enjeux, qui connaît les enjeux, qui touche monsieur, madame, tout le monde, c'est nous.
Il y a des jeunes aujourd'hui qui ont manifesté à Windsor parce que c'est le Friday for Climate. C'est quoi l'avenir de l'industrie automobile alors qu'on veut et que vous voulez vous attaquer au changement climatique?
Donc, je veux bâtir les voitures de l'avenir ici à Windsor. Je veux que les voitures de l'avenir soient construites ici au Canada. Donc, c'est exactement ce qu'on propose. On veut augmenter l'incentive de 5 000 $ jusqu'à 15 000 $, mais seulement pour des voitures qui sont fabriquées au Canada. Donc, on peut avoir un secteur automobile qui est fort, qui continue, si on fait les politiques pour aider les travailleurs et travailleuses qui s'assurent qu'on a un secteur qui vive, qui survive et qui continue de pousser ici au Canada.
Hi there, Mr. Singh. Ricardo Vanessa from CTV News in Windsor. I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about the Auto Innovation Fund. We've had previous iterations of that fund. It's been $300 million. It's been more. The current Liberal government has folded into a broader program. Why do you think that this initiative is going to guarantee that some of these jobs stay? And Windsor obviously concerned about the FCA third shift leaving. How do you guarantee that those manufacturing jobs that have been bleeding for years are going to stay now because you're sectioning off this Automotive Innovation Fund as its own plan?
So I don't suggest by any means that one thing is going to solve it, but it's a host of decisions that we're making. It's the entire approach that we're taking. See, the Liberal and Conservative governments have taken an approach where for them success is measured in, does a corporation make a lot of money? And corporations can make a lot of money, but still cut a lot of jobs. And that, to me, is not a success. If a wealthy, powerful corporation gets billions of dollars and continues to make a lot of money, but ships out all the jobs out of Canada, that, to me, is no success. That is a success for the Liberals and the Conservatives. That's the big difference. Our focus has to be on every decision we make, whether it's on our trade agreements, free trade versus fair trade, making sure workers get a fair deal, making sure workers have an opportunity to continue to work. On our procurement process, we want a procurement process when we're buying with our public dollars. If we're spending our public money on buying things for Canada, there should be a Made in Canada requirement. We should make sure every decision we make is through the lens of, will it create jobs, and will those jobs remain in Canada? That's the difference between New Democrats and Liberals and Conservatives. They don't care about whether the jobs remain. They just care about the bottom line. For me, the bottom line is, are there jobs for Canadians?
Just to follow up, so that $300 million, is there any job number attached to that in terms of it will save X number of jobs if we have this in place?
So our proposal in general is to not just save jobs, but to grow jobs. We're not going to be satisfied with just saving jobs. We want to make sure that there's a thriving sector, and that means the $300 million Automotive Innovation Fund, but that also means making sure we've got a national automotive strategy, a national manufacturing strategy. We make sure our trade deals reflect equal level playing fields for Canadian workers. All of this is not to save jobs. We want to grow jobs. We want to have abundance in our country, and we can if we make the right decisions. The decisions so far have made abundance for wealthy, powerful corporations, not for the workers that you see in this room. I want abundance for these workers. I want abundance for the people, and that's something we can achieve. OK. Merci tout le monde. Now we're actually done, and now we can hang out and chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Brian.